or sometimes it's moving on, like I can't do this anymore. I have to stop giving of my excellence to step into my genius.
But we're just so afraid of niching down too far because we're afraid that we're going to miss out on opportunities. But I think the exact opposite is true.
The best way to help somebody move forward is actually to be able to listen.
On episode 344 of the podcast, you are going to gain practical tips on listening to your audience and empowering them rather than pushing them for sales. And you're going to learn how to craft authentic messaging for your sales process. If you are ready to stop selling and start guiding, this episode is for you. What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business Podcast. This is a show for corporate and commercial filmmakers that want to work on their business and not just in it, want to be an owner and not just a freelancer. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right place. On this show, we talk about sales and marketing and process and all of the things that you need to build a sustainable business so that if you want to do this for a long time, if video production is your jam, then I want to equip you with the things that you need. And it's not just like, hey, I've got the best camera, I've got the best lighting, best audio. Those things are great, and great storytelling that's amazing, but that's not the thing that's going to keep you in this business. You have to have some business acumen. You need to know some things about how to do this, and I've been doing this for 18 years, and man, have I made a lot of mistakes, and you today can learn how to not run a business. Just kidding. I've done some things well as well. I've got a small team in Detroit, Michigan area. We've got a production studio, and we've booked jobs for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's not what we do every single day. We do a lot of $10,000 and $20,000 jobs, but we know how to book the big ones, and yeah. That's all I have to say for that about now. I do have a very special announcement, though. You're in for a treat. This has been coming for a long time, for actually a whole year. We are open, the doors are open for the Onward Summit. The Onward Summit. This is our in-person event for corporate and commercial filmmakers that really want to work on their business. This is an in-person event at our studio in Lake Orion, Michigan, which is about 45 minutes north of Detroit. You would fly into the Detroit Metro Airport, or you would just drive up I-75, or depending on where you're coming from, and hang out with us from October 1st through the 4th. We're going to have some amazing presenters. We're going to have some powerful sessions. And I tell you what, the thing that people rave about and love most is all of the conversations that happen with other video business owners, people that are trying to scale, people that are trying to hire, people that are trying to charge more. There's so many amazing conversations that happen over the course of those days. The bulk of the teaching and everything is the Monday, Tuesday, and a little bit Wednesday morning. We're hanging out on Sunday nights. We'll have dinner and drinks, and then Wednesday we'll have a session as well, and people kind of hang out, and it's just an awesome time. Last year we threw axes, we went bowling, so that we do have some downtime and some fun, but again, amazing opportunity to connect with other people from around the country and around the world. And what better thing to do than to take some time away from the business and learn, grow, get educated, build your network. So I invite you to come to the Onward Summit in October. Doors are open now. There are only 40 seats total for this event, so you've got to get moving. The event is coming up in October, like I said. You can find out all the things about the Onward Summit if you go to studiosherpas.com/onward. Hope to see you there. It's going to be a good time. All right, now let's get into this episode. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to another episode. Today, my guest is Duane Zingale. Is that good, Duane? Did I get it?
That's good. It's very Italian.
Duane is a marketing connection consultant and founder of the digital marketing group Legacy Catalyst, and host of his own show, the Marketing Your Movement podcast. Duane, super excited to have you on the show.
Stoked to be here. Thanks so much for sending me a bunch of emails, get me out here.
You made it. We made it. We're here. We're really doing it.
Indeed.
So, Duane, you're another connection of my friend, our mutual friend, Mike Kim. What would you say you do here? Give us a picture of what work looks like for you.
Yeah, a picture of what work likes for me. It can be a blend of many things. Sometimes it's sitting down and being a geek with lots of online automated tools and playing with ChatGPT.
Oh,
right?
man.
And so the dark side of the internet that nobody wants to play with. I'm a bit of a geek. So in many ways, it's right. I was always the geek who played with the tech toys that other people didn't want to figure out. So through a lot of stumbling, I discovered an even greater passion: conversations. So on the bright side of any given day, I'm having a conversation about truly what I would say leadership. And so I use the term marketing, but coming from a leadership development background, I really love helping people and leading people through discovering a narrative that gets the heart of building empathy with their client base, their ministry base, whoever they're talking to. And that's kind of what I do on any given day, including doing that with my wife to talk to our audience of parents of special needs kids. So living in a multifaceted world, because doing just one thing is too boring. So I have to have lots of things, right? They say do one thing. I don't know. Maybe I have too much ADHD for just one thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we have the mutual connection with the nerding out on tech things, and I think I see lots of Legos behind you. It's pretty fascinating.
A whole nother topic I can geek out on for hours, but that could take a whole podcast.
We could do the 3-hour Joe Rogan. We could do that style, you know.
Yeah, you just go on and on.
What else is there to do, you know? It's like, I got nothing on my calendar the rest of the day. It's not true. It's lies. It's all lies.
Well, I have all sorts of stuff I should be doing.
Well, yeah. when you're
I'd rather be here.
When you're working with clients, and I love how you just even are talking about like how you kind of help them get to their essence. Because in the world of video, it's the same thing we're trying to do. You know, as we do these brand films, our tagline is video with soul. And our hope is that if we can really peel back all the layers, all the corporate speak and you know, all of the stock imagery on your website, and really get to who you are as a brand, as a person, and how you help people and what you care about, and just how you want to impact the world. Like, if we can really get to that stuff, like, that's the stuff that's going to create those emotional connections, which is what you do too, which I just think is amazing.
Yeah, it really is similar. I like to say something similar. Let's make marketing human again. Instead of it being an object trying to sell an object to another object, it's like, no, you're a human trying to help another human have a human experience. And instead of applying it to video, typically I apply it to what we call the sales funnel, because that's where all the fun automated tech, genius comes from me. But yeah, right. Same vein, right? Let's tell stories that connect people to their sense of belonging, to their sense of purpose, to their sense of moving forward in their lives.
So at the core of that, in your deliverable, like if we were chatting about working together, is that your core offer is that you would help me with my own messaging and my own sales funnel?
Yeah, it would really be walking through kind of what I like to term magnetic movement, right? And so I help you manifest that movement narrative. Movement's a very fun play on words, because we obviously the buzzword right now, start a movement, lead a movement. Russell Brunson's talking about movements. We have movements of all sorts of kinds, sometimes very controversial, but it really is a power word in the sense of tribe, right? Another colloquialism. But really, let's get on a call. And what does it mean to go find strangers and draw them in and build a narrative? And what stories do you need to tell? And how do you connect the dots in their heart before it goes to their head, right? You got to capture them in their heart and connect the dots to their head, right? And the head and the heart kind of connection to get them to plow forward. Sometimes it's just that moment of influence of a mentor or a leader or a speaker, and you give that one aha moment, or you give that one sense of, I feel safe here, or I can be heard. But really, it's just giving voice where you haven't been able to speak your voice, and applying it to a sales funnel.
Right. It's so good. My buddy Jimmy always gives me a hard time because whenever we're talking through sales and stuff, I always want to get to the solution, because I believe so firmly that if you have a brand film like this, this piece that talks about all of your core values and gets to the heart and soul of who you are, like that will save you. That will help you. Man, it will get you so far. And what I hear you saying is like, oh, there's things that need to happen before you talk about the solution, right?
Very much so. People don't care about your solution until they know that you care. You got to open the relationship. You got to have the conversation. You got to build empathy so that they feel like, oh, I trust this person with my idea or with plowing forward. I believe they know what the heck they're talking about, right? When we get on the marketing side, right? How many people are good armchair marketers, but have never applied it? But just because they're such an incredible teacher, it's like a pastor who's never been a parent teaching about parenting. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Go have kids.
Yeah. I like to learn from experience, not from, here's an idea.
From theory.
You should do this. Yeah. Which is, it's not too far off. Well, that's good. What for you, like, as this sounds like you're pivoting, your business has kind of looked different through or over time, as most of ours probably do. But what's your journey? How did you get to where you're at doing the kind of work that you're doing today? Yeah.
So, I lived in a space through college coming out. I wanted nothing more than to do ministry around the world, or what many call Christian missions. So I was a part of a nonprofit group called Youth with a Mission, rather large, all over the world. And I ended up living in China. It was fantastic, but just landed in the John Maxwell leadership development world. And when that came to a sudden halt because of my daughter having the same birth syndrome I do, which, let's just say a missionary financial budget doesn't make space for $10,000 hearing aids and cleft palate surgeries. Now, having insurance certainly helped, but it was a major life change and a major decision moment, along with a lot of other things happening. That's a whole Joe Rogan podcast. I found myself going, okay, there's something next. And I was reading Think and Grow Rich, of all things, and just started applying that thinking. And I found my first freelance client. And he had this awesome business on the e-commerce side with loads of videos. Speaking of having videos, right? And he's just showing the application of his equipment, which is search and rescue climbing equipment, right? Ropes, pulleys, carabiners, all this stuff that you can do really cool stuff with other than climb, but actually save people's lives, but also very dangerous. So like, hey, here's how to tie this knot. Here's how to, hours and hours and hours and hours of videos. And he had this great idea to start a membership, but he had no idea how to get members. So like, okay, well, let's put this together. Let's package this. I had no idea what I was doing, right? Leadership development background, but I applied my problem solving, geeking out, and just, okay, we have this tool. Let's figure this out. Hey, here's this book launch by Jeff Walker. Let's do this. Just grabbing things. And just by applying somebody's framework with some principles of understanding leadership, we went from no members to 300 members in a month. And it was awesome, right? And suddenly we had, monthly reoccurring revenue. It was like, hey, this works. And this is a side income to $1 million e-commerce business. So it was just this phenomenal situation. It was like, hey, I can do this. This is fun, right? Digging into the story, what moves people along and why is this interesting? And continued to do that for 2 years. And next thing I know, I'm finding more clients. This was all by accident. Grew that business. We had about a 1,200 person membership at a 12,000 monthly reoccurring revenue. So, right, good reoccurring revenue. For a side income, it definitely more than paid my way. And then all of a sudden it plateaued. Right? So you get this point and you're like, all right, why is it plateauing? And I had gotten so excited about automating everything. And when I say automate, I'm like, everything. This goes into this, and then you just end up in a perpetual loop of automation. I will talk to you until you buy. But then, in that plateau, you're like, okay, but how come we can't grow? And the churn is happening and the growth is just stagnating. As we dug and started asking around, we get this cold, hard truth which hurt my leadership development background. That's very relational, like the ministry side of me. I would just get this, your guys' marketing is like talking to a sleazy used car salesman. It was like a knife to the heart.
Oh, man.
And that's when I realized I became the automated asshole. and just like, oh, I'm that guy who won't stop, and I'm no longer building relationship. I'm just pestering you until you buy.
Yeah.
And just in that journey of discovering, I began digging and digging and digging. Like, well, what are the principles of leadership from my background that will build a marketing movement, a path to actually connecting with people that causes them to want to move forward, and we'll call it marketing. And that kind of comes from John Maxwell. He says, what is leadership? Leadership is influence. What are we trying to do with marketing? Influence people to make a decision to buy, i.e. we're leading people to make a purchase that causes them to move forward, to take steps in a direction that they want, especially in the coaching consulting type of space that I love, where it's, it's all that, like, let's actually make progress and growth in our lives, whether it be our businesses or our personal lives or our marriages or raising kids. There's so many great products out there, but so often, right, from a head and heart space, we're like, never going to get right. We get stuck in our own muck, and we need coaches around all sorts of things, like sports coach, and that's why coaching is booming.
Yeah,
coaching is just really taking off because, I think where sometimes ministry fails, something crops up, and I mean, to me, coaching is ministry. So in that space of like digging through everything, I began discovering like common patterns of the most successful marketers, people like Jeff Walker, Mike Kim, Ray Edwards. They had a pretty common strategy of building relationship. And Mike Kim has this great line that's just, making a sale isn't about closing a deal, but opening a new relationship. Yeah. And I began to think about what's the one thing in building relationship and empathy and connection that matters the most. And then it just dawned on me that the best way to help somebody move forward is actually to be able to listen to them. And so through that and just kind of looking at the patterns, I was able to make an acronym out of listen, and pulling that together to make a framework where it's like, let's, stop objectifying people and make marketing human again, and use language that's, instead of baiting and hooking and punching them in the face and saying, give me your money so I can, sell you more courses and products and give you an experience that's devoid of human life. It's like, I'll succeed, right? And getting into people's lizard brain instead of getting to people's hearts and helping them move forward. And that's where people like Ray and Mike stand out to me, is they give a rip about you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have a lot of people in my circle, but I truly care about your success, not my bottom line. And I think that's probably the market difference of a leader versus just another bro marketer doing their marketing, where you're like, hey, great, you sold me a widget, thanks. I have another course. I've spent another $10K on getting somewhere, and I got nowhere because so right. We've all got that experience, paying too much for something that why did I buy this, right? Buyer's regret. Well, that's the last thing. Like, if you're truly connecting with people on a leadership empathetic level, they'll seldom have buyer's remorse. I don't know anybody who's bought one of Mike's products. It's like, I have buyer's remorse, because he truly cares. You feel like, hey, I'm here, and he'll challenge your butt. Right. And so I think a good leader, right, is not going to leave you, okay, I care about you succeeding, but right, I'm hearing you. You need to take action.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
So good. There's lots of goodness in that. From a video business owner's perspective, I think a lot of times we get hung up on, at least in my experience, I remember when I finally felt like I had a script that I could go through and kind of lead people through how I could help them. Right. And so it was very robotic and very awkward when I first started. But after like 3 or 4 calls, I was like, okay, like I know better what I'm saying. I kind of scripted out, but like as I'm saying it more and more, I believe it more and more. I get it. Okay, this becomes more natural. But again, my focus was always on like trying to get the sale. Like I'm on a discovery call to, hopefully get them to like want to buy from me. and from what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that that's probably not we're not there yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the tail end of like the marketing experience, right? The sale, right? Marketing is to produce sales. So the sale comes after marketing. We're having a marketing experience right now. We're hanging out on a podcast. Your tribe is hanging out here following. But guess what? Now they know this random schmuck who acknowledges that he's an automated Zingale. You know, what are we going to do? We're going to take your money. And and yeah, it's leading up to that moment, so they know just enough. And part of it is that moment. Sometimes you get somebody out of the blue, and you've done what you're supposed to do, and you have a little website with a form that says book a call with me. Especially on the high level, I want to talk to people, but then you have to have context, right? And listening, right? That whole experience is about context of understanding. Hey, where are you at, right? And so the sales call for me, right, leading into that is always about, locating where they're at, right? The L is for locate, right? Sometimes they're on social media. Sometimes they're there. Sometimes they booked a call, but you still want, hey, tell me, where are you coming from, right? Asking inquisitive questions. So I take a very coach-oriented approach to sales calls because I want to know how I can empower them, or if I should even be the person, right? I don't go into, I want to make the sale. You need what I have so bad. It's like, no, if you don't want to work with somebody who thinks like I do, right? I want to have chemistry. That working together is fun, because a client from hell will ruin your business, and then you'll want to shut it down. When it was life-giving at one point. So, right, and locate, right, get into their heart, begin to dig and see where they're at, and you want to extend an invitation. So in the funnel process, right, if we're thinking about this of marketing, we often go give our email in a little thing that says, get this PDF. I'm finally going to have the 10 steps to building an awesome studio, right? The 10 pieces of equipment you need to have, right? From a video perspective, there's a lot of ones I could do in the video world, because it's like, oh no, you have a home studio, the 10 things you didn't think about fixing before you set up your microphone, right? Because there's a lot of things to it. It could be any number, right? Those are just easy things, checklists. Those are all super basic, like entry level things to begin the marketing process, to go from, hey, I saw you on the internet, to, hey, I'd like to stay in touch, right? You went and got the gal's phone number at the mall, if you're old enough to remember doing that. I don't think they do that anymore.
I don't think they do.
I remember going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Or the arcade,
hanging out in an arcade, picking up girls' phone numbers.
Absolutely.
Same approach, right? You're being a little savvy, right? You're gonna start up a conversation. You're gonna see if it's interesting, right? You want to stay in touch, and that sense of capturing an email, you're extending an invitation. And when you think about it, that's like, yeah, I want to invite you to go on this journey of improving your video marketing, of telling a brand story, of having a funnel that doesn't come across like an automated a-hole, but truly builds relationship. So, right, that invitation into the movement. And it's a first step, right? Hey, I like to say, right, come and belong. Belong before you have to become one of us. You can belong here, right? It's just a nice, safe place to feel like you're seen and heard, and other people are going through a similar journey. We can talk. You can talk to our community. A lot of people use Facebook groups or circle groups or Slack groups, right? A free group. There's a lot of tactics that apply, but it's that sense of let's stay in touch. And sometimes that invitation's right then and there, right? It always applies, but that mindset of invitation is not, oh, I got to close the deal. So then you're going into it, and then the S is survey, right? So that's, how can I get to know you? I ask some key questions. Yes or no questions. What are you trying to discover? And this can be done in an automated way, right? I'm applying this to the sales funnel. Hey, you give me your email. Hey, what's your biggest struggle in? What's your biggest challenge with video marketing? What's your biggest challenge with having a home studio? What's your biggest challenge in selecting a camera? What's your biggest challenge not looking stupid on film, right? You're right, because how much of us, like, we start, oh, the camera's on me, don't look stupid, don't look stupid, don't look stupid, and all you're thinking about not looking stupid, and you just end up looking stupid. You're so focused on the wrong thing in your head. Okay, right? But that's a big pain point in people's, not getting started. I don't want to start a podcast. I'll look, or I won't. Or all the narratives we tell ourselves, because it's that key question. And that survey point is the kind of the pull. It's like, okay, I got your attention. Right, we're starting to build some connection. Let me build some empathy with what you're truly struggling with, because I've been there too. Right? It's this. Hey, I know what it's like to want to start a podcast and wait for a whole year to ever turn the microphone on, or I produced something, a year ago, and I'm finally putting it out there because I was so scared.
Yeah.
Right. That feeling of empathy and surveying, right? Getting to know your potential customer or client is really integral before you ask for a sale, whether that's on a sales call or through a funnel process, right? Through an automation. Then you're going to move on to teach, right? Everybody wants to know that you know what the heck you're talking about. And teaching is not all right, you're going to do 1 and 2 and 3. It's honestly, hey, I was there too. And, when I was young, this, and then I got my first client and I became the automated. It's storytelling and laying in some principles, right? But they just want to know that you get it, and you're not, like, prove that you're not an armchair marketer, and show your expertise. And then you're going to step into that sales moment. And this is where you really want to flip. I know a lot of people who've been here, because I use the word empower. When I was making sales at first, I was like, okay, I got to get the sale. How do I convince this person to, I've got to make it. I'm desperate for this money. And then you stink like desperation. But then, as I'm evaluating that process, like, I used to do ministry in Nepal, and we do leadership development. And because it's Nepal, it's like, okay, well, this is ministry that, hey, here's a week-long course, come for free. And people would come, oh, wow, 30 Nepalese, hike from all over the place. And they come and they do the teaching for the day. They have this incredible experience. They give you these great compliments. And then tomorrow comes and none of them come back except maybe one. And you have a whole new group of 30. You're like, what the heck? And you're like, come on. And then it's just day after day after day. For 7 days, you do day 1 all over again. So the second day, anybody who came back is like, well, it's day 1 all over again. Is this going to be tomorrow? And so you've given the first day of like training, but you're like, well, this is a week-long seminar. This is about the whole process. And then we started charging $10, right? Just a little financial. Now that's like 100, to some of us on the Western world, even more, right? $10 can be a lot to somebody who lives out in the middle of nowhere, Nepal. Even in Kathmandu, right? $10 is a lot more than it is to us, but it's still small enough. And then that $10 changed everything from a commitment level. It empowered them to show up and go through the whole training. It went from, I guess I'll come, to like, no, I'm committed. I gave them my $10, and right. And then we got the same 50 people. So not only did we get more to come on the initial, we got more retention through the whole process. And that retention is key to following up with your empowering moment, nurturing success in your tribe, right? Helping nurture the success. It's so easy to focus so much on the sale that we forget after the sale that their success is the fastest path to not only retention, which is higher income, but to referrals, which is the best way to get more clients. Like somebody who's, oh, this person was amazing. They really made sure I success. They cared. They challenged me when I was sitting on my butt and didn't want to get going. They got me comfortable on video. They showed me how to set up my mic. They jumped on a Zoom and said, yeah, do this, this, and this, and made sure my audio didn't sound like crap, right? Just all those little nurturing moments that feel human, instead of like, I'll just take course 1, right? I'm going to apply a chat bot to make sure you have an okay experience. And it's like, I don't want to talk to another robo. Like, yeah, AI is cool, but AI can't replace that sense of like, they get me, they understand what I'm going through. ChatGPT is cool when you're like, I need to revise my copy, or I don't know what to do, or I want to play some ideas. But ChatGPT at this point does not replace that moment of like, hey, let's solve this technical problem. Like, let's jump on a Zoom. I got some time. I'll make some space for you. And yeah, that takes more out of me. But that's just who I am, right? I want to jump on and have that moment with you and see that you set it up correctly, so you don't end up being another automated asshole. So that's kind of the listen process, right? So it's laying up to get to that moment to like, can I empower you? And sometimes you go into that and you go, heard this, and I'm hearing this from you. I don't think you need what I have. I think you need what my buddy Jeremy has. Like, you're talking about a completely different film experience. I have two great friends from my circle. You would go completely night and day from Jeremy's he's gonna capture your conference. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna get this one-liner versus like, no, I want an Instagram reel that's like this great story and epic and totally different experience. And knowing that what somebody needs, it's better to point somebody in the right direction to get the experience that you're seeing that they need to have the right solution to grow their business or to build their platform than to think you can do it. Because again, clients from hell, which can just because you said yes, because you think or believe or know you can help them, even though it's not in the scope of your specialization or your sweet spot, you'll just drag yourself through the mud and you're like, oh, speaking of listening, sometimes you have to listen to your own heart, right? I don't do certain things, or sometimes it's moving on. Like I can't do this anymore. I have to stop giving of my excellence to step into my genius, right? From the it's a good book, right? The Zone of Genius.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Gay Hendricks.
Yep. Yeah,
it's worth a read. All right, and if you're like struggling in that, doing too many different things for too many different people, you're excellent at a lot of things, but listen to yourself so that you can listen to other people and point them in the right direction, empower them for success so you can have a relationship instead of like, yay, I closed another deal. Yeah. Oh no, I have no right. Buyer's regret is a thing. Seller's regret is an even bigger thing. I regret selling this deal. I never should have sent that contract.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely
a bit of my journey.
Yeah, I love it, dude. That's a powerful acronym. I resonate with all those things. The Zone of Genius, this idea, I think so many of us, especially early on in our business journey, like most of us didn't have a business before we started doing video production, so we're just figuring out what does it mean to run a business. And when somebody calls or somebody inquires, it's like feast or famine. So we got to go after this. So we think that our niche is just video, and then we just try to figure out like, okay, I've never done that kind of video, but I could do it. And maybe there is somebody down the road who specializes in that thing, but this is an opportunity for me right here. So let me figure this out. I think there's a window of time where you should be trying all of the things.
Absolutely.
And as you're trying all the things, you should be discovering those moments of regret, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we signed this. We're doing this project with this client. This is like not even necessarily the client from hell, but this is the project from hell. Like it's really difficult. We're learning, but it's just not as profitable as it should be. And as you get more opportunities, there should come a time where you say, man, we're really good at this, maybe this, and this. We're good at these 2 or 3 things. But the feeling of like having to say like, well, here's another opportunity. We're going to say yes because it's cash and like we're going to be able to, make payroll and whatever. That is excusable for a while, but eventually if you really want to grow your business, you need to become more efficient in the things that you're doing. And to land on your zone of genius, and again, like video is just too broad of a zone of genius. It's like inside a video, there are things that you excel at or that you and your team excel at, things that you should be doing, and videos that you shouldn't be doing. And to become somebody who can refer somebody else is amazing. People love that. Their trust in you grows even more, even if they don't hire you. So you can become very referable. And then for you to specialize in a particular kind of video or with a particular kind of industry, you literally become the expert in that space versus, oh, Ryan's the video guy. Okay, well, when I tell people I'm the video guy, they're like, oh, okay, so if I need a video someday, I might call you. But if I say, hey, I work with, coaches that work with real estate agents, it's like, oh, okay. And we make video content that like gets them more leads. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. So you're really focused. People get afraid. Filmmakers are like, oh, I can't like niche down that much. Well, I don't know the numbers here, but like, I'm just going to say in the United States that there's 50,000 realtors. That's probably really, really low. But if you only could get 1% of that amount of people on your email list, I think is that 500? 10% would be 5,000. So 500 people on your email
50,
list.
Yeah, 500 people. That'd be huge.
That would be huge. And then like, let's just say 1% of those people hire you to do a video for them at 5,000 or 10,000. That's $50,000. Let's just say, and this is like terrible math, but every single one of those people, you can have a very similar conversation. You know the struggles that they have. You know what they need, and you literally become the expert. So you can become an expert there, and then if you realize you've got a lot more bandwidth and you could spend time in other spaces marketing, then like go over there. But we're just so afraid. Sorry, I need to get off this my soapbox here. But we're just so afraid of niching down too far because we're afraid that we're going to miss out on opportunities. But I think the exact opposite is true, not just in the amount of opportunities, but the quality. And along with that comes the efficiency. Because if we can figure out, and we already know up front, hey, these are the 3 kinds of videos every realtor should have, and we've got a process for each of these 3 to do them quickly, and we're not starting from scratch every single time. Being in business for longer than 5 years, to find some things that you can just repeat and just do, and you can focus on the relationship, like, man, there's a lot to say for that. I'm going to take a breath. Any other thoughts?
No, I think, no, absolutely. There's a time to be in that space where I started by being the guy who was just going to figure it out. But I also charge the I'm figuring it out rate.
Yeah.
I.e., I don't even know what to charge, and I'm not confident enough. But here's my rate, right? Somebody accepted that because they thought it was affordable for their situation, and you need to be aware that in that season you're building yourself a job, and you will trap yourself in a job if you keep getting gig after gig after gig. That's so different. Like filming a wedding and like the skill sets to do that right, and you're like, okay, I figured this out. Oh, now I'm gonna go try real estate, right? Totally different skill set. And so you're applying, right, that learning curve over and over. Whereas if you're building a business, you got to find that sweet spot. And so any sweet spot, you can work yourself out of the job. So if you go into that mindset, I don't want just a job, I want to build a business. If you're building, some people just want to film. That's fine. Totally. You can have yourself a job that's 20 hours a week and apply yourselves to other creative forms, but it pays the bills. That's okay if you want to just do anything. And another thought I had is you don't have to go at it alone. You're like, that's outside the scope of what I've done before. Who do I know? Because anybody's going to say, hey, you're willing to come in. Hey, I'll partner with this person. Let's pull this in. Let me reach out to somebody who specializes in weddings. I'll bring the deal to the table, right? Because you're bringing a massive service. And for all you know, this person will be like, hey, do you want to keep bringing me deals? And you realize you enjoy the sales process and the filming, right? So partnerships can get creative and it can fill that void. Or that could be an opportunity for like, oh, man, I'd really love my buddy to show me the ropes on doing a wedding correctly. Because God forbid you screw up somebody's wedding film, right? Don't be the first guy unless if that's a friend. And so there's like creative partnership and hey, I'll take 50%, you take 50%. I learn the ropes from you, but I'll do the heavy lifting. All you got to do is make sure we do it right. And so you can get real creative that way. But you do want to work to the point like, okay, I do events. This is the SOP for events. Hey, you, and you, right? Come. This is your process. And then if they're on rinse, wash, and repeat, then you're just booking those and then you can go out and expand. A niche, so often we caught up in, I'm going to get trapped. Your marketing focuses on real estate agents. That doesn't mean you exclusively serve real estate agents. It just happens to be, because some realtor is going to have somebody who's like, oh, I have this guy who did my video, and he's just like, and it's the baker, right? It's a local, hey, Lud. It's completely different, right? It's all come in and help me tell a story. So people come into my local bakery and it's like, well, that's a story. And they're wanting it to go up on Facebook. Completely different experience than selling a house. And those opportunities come. And then it's knowing, do I want to explore this? I've never done this before. And sometimes it requires, in my humble but accurate opinion, requires being honest and integral to somebody and like, I've never done this before. But I've done this, this, and this. I have these skills, but because it should just be honest. Don't put your foot in your mouth, right? Sometimes you can take some risks, but I think it's important to know. Okay, I'm going to step into this, and it's important to know, right? Okay, I'm trying something new. Guess what? You're like, oh, this is only going to take this much time. This project will be this much. Oh no, this is a new experience. It's going to apply a lot, and you'll destroy your capacity.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God, I'm so tired, right? So you got to know what you're getting yourself into. Now, if cash flow is a problem, sometimes you got to hustle.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to work. You got to
100%.
bust your. The goal is to build a business so you have the freedom or the growth or the impact that you're looking to have, right? You're truly getting out there to do something, not build slave labor for yourself. That's how I realized I'm working with Ray. I'm like, I could be a copywriter. I write great. I write good copy.
Yeah.
It just ends up being worth about $1 an hour. And I just realized I don't want to get paid $1 an hour. And I don't want to write day in and day out. So I had to go, okay, I am not the writer for all this funnel marketing. And there's a lot of writing that goes into this. I am the architect, right? And learning to define your role and your sweet spot and building a team so you don't get trapped. It's a big part of it, right? Business growth is hard.
Yeah.
But making these decisions now instead of 7 years later, if you want to talk about these pain points, I can talk about all sorts of pain points because I've done all the wrong things to figure out the right things. Which is just part of the process.
It is. It's part of the process. But if there's anything that, our listeners can take away and say, oh, I could learn a little bit faster, that would be amazing, right? Like,
yes, it is amazing. Learn a little bit faster.
I think about like my own journey. 6 months into my video business, I started doing weddings. And then for the next 8 years, I built packages, I built teams. I remember the very first time I didn't go on a shoot, but we had a shoot going. My wife and I went out to dinner, and we're having dinner, and I looked over and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm making money right now, and I'm not there. And if we were doing all sorts of everything kinds of projects, and we still were doing all sorts of kind of everything projects as we could, but during wedding season, it was like, all focus on weddings, but the way that we sold them, the way we talked about them, the way we marketed them, the people we talked to, the people we networked with, the events that we would go to, all of that stuff was just like, oh yeah. And if we could find another magazine or another vendor, it's like, oh, okay, there's the network just deepens. And the process, it's like the process might change if we get a new camera or if we say, hey, let's start adding this, let's start doing trailers. Okay, well, let's come up with a new process for that. But we streamlined that stuff. And I was at a spot where I was thinking about building like another studio in a different city, building teams in a different location. And man, I'm so glad I didn't. But we really could have because we had a playbook. And it was like, this is how we do this kind of thing. Other opportunities are going to come along the way. And if we don't have a process, we'll figure it out if it seems like a good opportunity. And then in 2012, all these many years later, we launched this corporate brand, and I thought it would be very similar. But in the world of corporate filmmaking, the needs of the people we were talking to were all over the planet. They didn't need a wedding video. They didn't need a wedding trailer. They needed a training video. They needed this event film. They needed a brand film. They needed a explainer video with motion graphics. And it's like, oh my gosh, like navigating all that stuff and coming up with a playbook. We tried our best to come up with playbooks for each of those things, but it was so much work and we couldn't be nearly as profitable unless we were just charging an exorbitant amount. And that's hard for people to swallow. So anyway, I've learned over the past decade of doing all the kinds of projects for corporate clients. I'm like, that's not sustainable for me. I've grown tired of that again. And we're back in a spot where it's like, okay, let's come up, let's dial in our offer, let's dial in our industry, our niche, and just go after one market and let's own one market. And if we get bored, cool. Like we've still got this other brand and we can do work there, but I'm just so excited and on fire to be doing something that can be repeatable and scalable if we want it to be. And I want it to be.
Yeah, repeatable and scalable it can really be, and I think you need to know yourself, right? Because there is that like, Repeatable and scalable, I dread. And I'm like, oh, so boring. Repeatable. Like I'm out to go learn new things. I'm ADHD. I want to do new things. I get into Legos, and next thing it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and it's right. I'm very, very I'm like a ping pong ball, right? I'm going all over the place. So sometimes knowing you need to get a partner who can build that playbook, right? And so building strategic relationships, partnerships, right? It doesn't have to be a business partnership, but right, somebody who can help you sourcing that. Because there is that element. Some people are wired to start a thing, get it going, and move on. Like, okay, start a thing, but you need to learn these things about yourself. If you're that starter entrepreneur and you're going to get bored, you're gonna spin your business into circles because you're constantly chasing the thrill of something new, of learning something new, or starting something new, or discovering something new, and that's okay. Like but obviously, if you're that person, you can also build something new, pass it on, make money, and keep doing it. And now you have a backbone of finances that means you can build something faster. So that's the joy that I'm in right now. I'm like, okay, I've built something that's making me money, and I work 5 hours a week at that. And it's a nice little supplement that pays the bills, and I've got 35 hours a week to figure out what I want to do. When SHTF, and some weeks, it's like 20 hours a week. Oh man, it was a rough week. I had to apply 20 hours this week to my client. Big whoop-de-doo. But morning, I answer a few things, and I can jump on podcasts and not worry about time. I can pick up my kids from school. So there's this element of you're building more than just income. You're building something so you can have the lifestyle of your dreams, right? That is the joy of this freelance online world. We're in a really cool place in the world where we don't have to slave labor for 60 hours a week. It started that way for me. I had 70, 80-hour weeks 8 years ago. It was tough. From food cart to online to Home Depot, back to the food cart, back online. It was rough.
Oh, man.
But 8 years, I'm in a home. I've got a Lego investment that people dream of, right? And so it's working towards something, and it's knowing it's not going to be overnight, right? And it's have a long-term play and continue pivoting. And sometimes you burn your heart out and you're like, you need something new. You need to know your heart, because hitting that spot where you're just done is not fun. So
well, I'd love to just for us to end remembering that, as a service provider, right? Like, I've got to be out networking at some level. I think having an inbound strategy in a sales funnel, like just having that working in the background as I'm out networking, or if I get an opportunity to be on a podcast or to go speak on a stage at an association and talk about the importance of a brand story and how to tell your own story. And when I get those opportunities, but then to be able to send somebody like, hey, for more information, go to tellstudios.com/download. And then people can download this thing that I have. What's like a final encouragement or a final thought that you would give to the solopreneur filmmaker that is trying to build this thing?
So there's an old colloquialism: the money is in the list, and it's true, right? So you're just kind of leaning into that. The reason I love funnels is not the list; it's the relationship. But those are the same, right? You're building a database of customers. You go to the pizza shop. What do they want? They want your phone number so they can, get you in the SMS thread and say, hey, pizza, but I'm a pizza connoisseur, right? You're right. Beer, right? I get emails from my favorite local brewery about the new beers and I'm like, yeah, I'm headed to the beer party, right? People want to belong and be a part of something. So think about that. But build the asset. No, you don't need a website first. I used to think that. It's kind of a misnomer. All you need, one thing, is you need a way to capture people's information online. They need a place to go so you can get their information and that you can begin building relationship. Email is, by and far the easiest and the nice thing, right? Think about that list. My wife was like, we're bored. I'm not getting any sales. I'm like, well, let's send an email. Couple grand later, we've got it. You're right. It's a simple email, goes out and make a bunch of sales, right? And so there is power in that email list because purchases happen from connection. That doesn't happen on social media. You can't rarely do you just post on social media and get a sale. Social media pulls into the list, right? So how can you build that relationship and pull people in? So think about a resource that's right drawing in from an invitational standpoint. Like how can you create something that makes people feel like they're going to take a step forward, right? A to B, not the whole thing. Although you can show them the roadmap. There's a lot of paths, the whole roadmap, the checklist too. Just a simple resource. They give their email in exchange for that PDF, and then you can stay in touch. Right. All you got to do is get that up. That way, you're on stage, you're on a podcast, and you're going to experience this because right, you're going to say, "Shout out this thing," and then you get into that. This is where automation, right? And then you can begin that sales relationship building through a set of communication tools. Email, you can use SMS, you can use Messenger. There's a lot, but the principle of listening, right? Building empathetic connection so you can get into conversation is huge. And so that, oh man, that was so helpful, right? How can you invite them in to help them move forward? So what's that resource? And I have a couple resources that can help with that in terms of just like pulling this out of you. Sometimes like, I don't know what to create.
Can you share those?
And so generally it's right. Simple. Yeah. So speaking of having, a landing page, I use, obviously I talked about the Listen framework. You can get the Listen framework at thelistenframework.com. And it's just a quick overview, kind of what I was sharing, right? What each of the acronyms stand for. And that's essentially my philosophy on marketing. That's really it is. It's a modus operandi, right? All roads lead to, this is our value set.
Yeah.
And then I also have a resource to kind of help walk you through choosing what we call a lead magnet, right? I haven't used that word this whole time because it's descriptive, but it's also just kind of overdone that way, right? Yeah. What invitational asset can you give? And that's the magnetic movement builder. That's just a Google Doc. So just in that, grab that Listen framework, and you'll kind of get in. And I ping that, right? Hey, here's an additional resource, so you can start doing that. So that'll be in that email thread. So that's where you're going to look for that. That way, you're going to one place. Mm-hmm. You're going to get it all. You can get all of me. You can even book a call with me. You're like, I like this guy, and I'll talk to you for hours for free because I like to talk a lot.
Be careful what you ask for.
Pull it out of you. Yeah, careful. Oh, no, it's exactly what I want.
That's so good.
And be willing to give your time.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. That's a big part of it. Is people who value your time will value you, and if you value them back and value their time, right? That's part of it, right? The invitation to come spend time together, and sometimes that relationship will become a cash exchange. Sometimes it'll become a referral. Yeah. Sometimes it'll be both.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I also just wanted to say too, the whole idea of the email list. I just did a masterclass, I think 2 months ago, on this idea, this concept. If you don't have any digital products as a filmmaker, it's kind of like, well, what am I going to sell? Well, and it's hard to sell a $20,000 brand film on an email, right? That's challenging. I've found myself in that same spot. But I mean, when we were knee deep in weddings, I remember it would be October, and in Michigan, like November, December, January, super slow months for weddings, but we would have people on our list that were getting married in November. And so the end of October, I would send a last minute, like, hey, if you haven't booked your wedding, we're doing, 2 free hours or a free trailer or some kind of upgrade. And it would work. We would sell, or we would do a promotion on a wedding trailer, or additional hours. We would do Black Friday sale, and that stuff would actually, people would. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe this actually works. So depending on what you offer, if you have a niche, and most everybody either wants a brand film or has a brand film, like maybe there's social content, social things that you can do, and so you could run some kind of a promotion, or there are a lot of different ways that you can leverage an email list. And if the only thing that you're doing is staying top of mind and creating value for them, that will turn into business for you. And then if you go like the next step and create a digital product, like a course or something that you could sell, or create a community for people to be a part of, and a membership that they get to come in, and you're showing up and sharing ways that they can be shooting their own video, or editing their own video, or telling their stories, or whatever that might be. That could be super profitable and worth pursuing as well. So
And if
definitely
you built
agree.
that playbook, people will buy that playbook, right? You're like, I'm bored of this. You just, there's 101 wedding filmers who want to follow in your footsteps when you're done with it.
Yeah.
But you've built the process. You can coach them, you can consult them, you can just sell the product playbook for $25. There's a lot of paths, right? So there's a lot in that list. If you're building now, that's value 10 years down the road. So absolutely.
So good. Duane, this is super fun. You said it's the listenframework.com. Is that right?
It's called the Listen Framework, but the URL is listenframework.com.
There it is.
Yes, I somehow got that URL, so I'm very proud of myself for coming up with such a great idea.
And it was available. That's even better.
Yeah.
Hey man, thank you so much for your time today. This is awesome to connect and appreciate your perspective. I think very inspiring, and I'm excited to hear what people's takeaways are from this one.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you made it this far. Thank you so much for listening. If you want access to the show notes, the links, all that stuff, go to studiosherpas.com/344. If you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching it on Facebook and you had an aha moment or something that just stood out, you're like, man, I am going to start doing this, stop doing this. Would love to hear your comments and thoughts. Please leave those in the appropriate place, or you can send me an email. My email address is ryan@studiosherpas.com, and I love hearing from you. You can also follow us along on the socials at Grow Your Video Business, and don't forget about the Onward Summit, studiosherpas.com/onward. And if you have not accessed my 6-figure filmmaker workshop, this is a workshop where I share all the ins and outs, the things that have worked best for me over the last 18 years in growing and scaling a business. It's a totally free workshop, and you can go get access to that right now by going to studiosherpas.com/workshop. That's it. That's all I got for you today. I will see you on next week's episode. Cannot wait. And I'll talk to you then. See ya.